Memories of a half-forgotten metaphor, Prince defecting, leaving the kingdom of evermore.
Shalosio Yatzarel. It's your brother, your cousin, your nephew, young Aniyun Wiya, reporting live on behalf of the Master of Breath, Hisagere Messi, to let you know that despite what they told you, your righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and your law is the truth, not theirs. And when I say theirs, I am referring to your masters, your holders, the people who run things on this land which is yours. Listen to me. I came to do this because I want as many white people to watch this stream as possible. I have no idea how many white people are actually going to tune in. I don't care if you're conservative or liberal. We need to discuss this. We've got to be discussing this at this point. And the this I'm referring to is, of course, the disgruntled disposition of Latino voters as of late, and I just want to be clear about what's going on with that. I want to take a little bit of a different approach to talking about it than what I've heard on the internet for the past however long, couple of weeks. But before I can get into that, I'm gonna show you some clips. Let me just set the stage for a second. All right. Do not allow yourself to judge any book by its cover. If there is one thing that Americans, if there is one thing that Americans should have learned by now, it is that judging a book by its cover is incredibly dangerous. I mean, that is the least of what you should have learned by now from all of your prejudices. Now, when I say don't judge a book by its cover, right now I'm talking about me. Specifically, do not walk away from this channel. Do not click out just because. I mean, if you're clicking out because this is just not a topic you care about, that's one thing. But don't leave this topic, don't leave this video if you're leaving because you're concerned that I'm the wrong person to talk about it, or that this is just going to be the inarticulate ramblings of an angry black man. That's the prejudice I'm talking about. Check that. That's what I'm referring to. Listen, so just to put things in context for a second, to explain where I'm coming from. I am an ethno-journalist. I've been a journalist for many years, but I've been an ethno-journalist only for the past year, maybe. I mean, the past couple of years. My journalistic background is really in politics, though. I've been a political journalist for USA Herald and other. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to go any further than that. I'm in print media, and I've been a journalist for several news publications. Let's put it that way. So I'm not trying to hide it or anything, but yeah, I show the publications on my channel from time to time. That I've written for in the past as a career staff journalist, as a staff reporter, covering municipal politics, state, and also handling coverage at the state and federal level in different years in the past, and my primary beat has always been politics. From time to time it was also business, but my primary beat has always been politics. I have at times had a focus on homelessness as a just a focal point in my coverage from time to time was homelessness. I've done some work with NPR as well, local work within my state, I've done some work with NPR. Now, here's the thing. Oh, and I'm also a member of the National the National Association of Black Journalists. Been a member for some years now. All right. I say all that to say, do not just discredit me for what I look like or for what I'm about to say. The other thing that I'm about to say is that I am what you would refer to as a Creek Indian freedman. My great-great-grandmother on my mother's side, my maternal great-great-grandmother, one of my maternal great-great-grandmothers, was grew up for part of her childhood on the Muskogee Indian Reservation in Oklahoma because her father was found himself on the Muskogee Indian Reservation, and so the whole family was there until they moved when she was a teenager to Tennessee, but they were in Oklahoma. They were on the Muskogee Indian Reservation, and I say that simply to say this. I have indigenous blood in me, and not just from the bloodline that I have paperwork on. I have the paperwork for that bloodline, but I also have Cherokee and Pamunkey Indian in me as well. Those tribes I am connected to. Now the Cherokee connection is a little sketchy because it actually very well may be Yuchi Indian blood, but I say all this to say the point is I'm what you call a Native American freedman. Black Native Americans, you heard of Black Native Americans and you wonder what that's about. If you're not already familiar with that, this is what it is. And they call us freedmen because the idea is that we're only Indian by way of slaves who were taken by Indians and then, became part of the tribe that way. That's not actually accurate. And this entire channel is dedicated to demonstrating that the reason there are so many Black Indians is because it's not just about having been enslaved by Indians. There were Indians who simply looked like this. But whatever, I'm not going to try and convince you of that in this live stream because that's not what this is about. So I'm an ethnojournalist and I am a quote-unquote Native American. I don't actually prefer to use that term. I prefer to use the term American Indian, as most of the people my color do when talking about indigenous heritage. We were actually not allowed, in some states by law, for many years, to identify as Indians over a century ago. And these are all the things I talk about on this channel. That's what this channel is about. This channel is also about exploring the fact that my people, because while I talk about my indigenous heritage, you should also know that I have Ethiopian Jewish heritage from Africa. Because, yes, I do have ancestors who I did confirm were brought on slave ships to this continent. And that's where this nose comes from. It is extremely prominent among all Ethiopian Jews. And yes, so my ancestors were brought from the Congo. You may be wondering, were there Ethiopian Jews in the Congo? As a matter of fact, yes, as prisoners of war and as slaves. And then they were sold to Europeans. But that's how that is validated is a whole other thing. Anyways, literally, this nose was the source of much of the consternation that led to genocide in Rwanda. The search for this nose and shedding the blood of everyone who had it. And that is also its own story. So I'm giving all of this preamble to kind of give you an understanding of who it is that's talking to you. The state of Israel, well, I'm not even going to go into that. We are Israelites. There, got that out the way. Rip that band-aid off. You don't have to believe that we, and I'm not talking about Africans in general, I am talking about the quote-unquote African American. And I'm speaking to what I hope is as diverse an audience as possible. I want as many white and black Americans in here as possible, and I really want as many Latinos in this audience as possible. Okay, and I'm just trying to get you guys to understand where I'm coming from with all the things that I'm going to be saying. All right. Here's the tenor of my message in this stream, in this video today. I got on this platform to talk about all of these things. When I call myself an ethno-journalist, it is because I take that term very seriously and I take my research very seriously. And I see many other content creators in my niche who are producing content about the same topics, but taking very little pain to invest time and effort in doing the same due diligence that I do. Okay, none of the points that I make on this channel are made flippantly. All right, I do not jump on any. I do not jump on any fact as with an assumption that it is true. I don't. I really don't. And I have presented to you in every video for the past several videos what I refer to as the Hichiti principle, which is 1 is an incident, 2 is a coincidence, 3 is a pattern, as a way to help us all rationally think about the things that I talk about in my videos. When I am trying to demonstrate that there is evidence to support something, it is because I have demonstrated a pattern of sources verifying that thing. The idea that the Negro in America is actually descending from ancient Israelites is not an idea that even comes from African Americans. It's not an idea that comes from black indigenous people in America. We didn't come up with this idea. All right? Our identity was completely forgotten to us. It never occurred to the vast majority of us. The idea comes from Jews themselves. They did all the research. All the books that we cite, when I say we, I mean black Hebrew Israelites, all the books that black Hebrew Israelites cite, besides the Tanakh itself, besides the Bible, besides Talmud, besides Mishnah, all of these texts that we cite as sources to use as evidence of where we actually come from are written by Jewish scholars in recent decades and within the last 2 centuries. Jewish scholars within the last 150 years have laid out a body of evidence to support who we say we are. Now, we're here to talk about this bizarre cross-section, which is the Latino ethnic group. Latinos constitute an ethnic group that is undergoing extreme identity crisis today. That is what's happening. They are undergoing an extreme identity crisis. And mind you, no one knows identity crisis better than the Negro. So if I can tell you that they are experiencing an outrageous identity crisis, it is because they are. And for those of you who don't want to go any further because you're Jewish and it offends you that I would say that I am a descendant of ancient Israelites, even though there are tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people who look like me in the state of Israel today, who were brought because of the law, the Zionist law of return, sanctioned by the Israeli government. If you're still offended that I say I am a descendant of ancient Israelites, please know that I am on your side. Not on all matters, but in general, I'm with you. I'm with you. However, you need to check your privilege when it comes to this Israelite identity. Because anyone who participated, any ethnic group that participated in the transatlantic slave trade, which was the displacement of whoever the hell my people are, anyone who participated in that has no right to be offended that I think I'm you. Right? Because had you not displaced me, if I wasn't actually a descendant of any ancient Israelites, there would be no confusion. The Negro has an identity crisis which has given birth to an entire Black Hebrew Israelite movement, specifically because the Negro was displaced. And in researching his identity, he has come to find a wealth of evidence, much of which you gave him, that suggests, strongly suggests, and rabbis say it suggests, that we are the Israelites. We quote you all the time. We pull white Jewish Ashkenazi rabbis forward who assert and support our claims all the time. And for those of you who want to click off because you're Native American and you have a problem with me identifying as a Black Native American, and I have a problem, mind you, with even putting it that way. I am an American Indian. I am the American Indian. And I know that many of you get offended when people who look like me say that. And if you don't want to be here because I said that, you need to check your privilege for the same reason that the Jewish man needs to check his privilege, right? For the same reason that the Jewish woman has to check her privilege, right? You need to check your privilege. Because, of course, your claim to indigenous identity is actually at risk because of blood quantum. And you know what I mean. And I don't care if these other people who are not Native American don't know what blood quantum is. You and I know what blood quantum is. And you and I both know why it's a problem. Right? It's a problem. And you also know what the problem is with how you deal with the freedmen on your land. Your land is my land. Don't tell me. Don't be trying to tell me. Don't be trying to tell me. Because you participated in the same slave trade that displaced me. I wouldn't be confused. If I'm wrong, it's your fault. I'm not wrong, but if I was, it's your fault. So, going forward, let's understand that the Latino, I'm saying the Negro has an extreme identity crisis, and this is a product of the combination of imperialism and colonization. Imperialism doesn't have to involve colonization, but when you have both, and especially when you when you undergird it with institutionalized slavery, this is the result. What happens is there is a confusion of identity that comes to the later generations who are trying so hard to find their way and find a way to label their own culture and identify as themselves and be proud of their identity, in spite of the fact that the master race who came in and colonized has bolstered their identity as normal, as standard, and yours as substandard. So when you are othered, you internalize what has happened is we have internalized the Eurocentric views of us that whites had when they came, and that whites have perpetuated since they've been here. And now, on our own soil, there is this pervasive, incredibly ubiquitous understanding that the Negro is substandard. We don't live up to the standard that Eurocentrism espouses. The Latino is not immune to this at all. In fact, Latinos are uniquely affected. Their identity crisis is not even the same as that of the Black American. Why? Because of miscegenation. Miscegenation creates this confusion. And however intense the miscegenation was, that's how intense the identity crisis will be. That makes sense? Does that make sense? Blanqueamiento. Blanqueamiento is a... Listen, and los negros, hoy, los negros son los morenos. Se llaman los morenos. What I'm saying is, the brown people, the people who look like me in South America and in Central America, they are called los morenos. Right? So they're no longer even using the term Negro, even though it came from them. Negro came from down there. It was Portuguese and Spanish, Portuguese and subsequently Spanish, that even gave us this term, Negro. But now this term has fallen out of use, and they're talking and they're saying something else entirely. Right? The Latinos do not believe that they are brown people. They are referred to in this country as brown people, which is ironic because oftentimes they're actually not. But they are referred to as brown people, and they don't believe that they are brown people, so they are confused now when they come here and support Donald Trump, vote for him, and don't get treated like they are part of the master race. When they start getting ejected, which they were fine with when they thought it wasn't going to affect them. They were okay with ejecting their own people. Latinos were okay with ejecting their own people, so long as their own family was not affected. And that's where the confusion comes in. That's where the confusion comes in. They become bewildered, befuddled, nonplussed as to how they can find themselves now in this predicament in light of the fact that they're white. Brown Latinos are not confused. White Latinos are confused. Pallid Hispanics, they're the ones who are confused. They thought that they had been included in something that they have always wanted to be a part of. And here's why. The difference between them and us is that in their countries, and this goes for many South American and Central American countries, many of them, perhaps most intensely Mexico y Venezuela, but all of these countries have a part in what I'm about to say. I'm not gonna blanqueamiento. I'm not going to do a whole thing on blanqueamiento in this stream because I'm going to be focusing on it in a future presentation, actually in a documentary that I will be partnering with Hiloha Naniwaya to produce and put out, and it'll be awesome. But the gist, as you understand, is that whites from Europe were invited here en masse over the course of many generations, many decades throughout the 1900s and even late 1800s, with the intent to whiten the race. Please come, these countries said, and marry and mix, because we want to be able to restore the whiteness of the colonizer who came. Because the mistake that the Spaniards and the Portuguese made, that the English did not make, and that the French did not make, was, at least not so much, not in North America, was outnumbering themselves with brown people. The majority of the slave trade, you must understand, went to South America and the Caribbean. And so, and Mexico was by no means cut off from this at all. Mexico too. But the majority of the slaves from Africa were taken to those places. Not so much North America, actually. I talk about this all the time on this channel. So please, if you're confused about any of this, just look at some of my other content. And just, do your homework in general. Do your own research. It's all mainstream sources. I only use mainstream sources on this channel for the most part. So you'll see all the slaves from Africa, the vast majority of them went to Central and South America and the Caribbean. And what you have to understand about the significance of that is that this meant that those people were combined with los indígenas, who were already just as dark as the people brought from Africa. They were just as dark. They looked the same, actually. Their hair, in many cases, was even the same. I'm not going to say in all cases, but for many tribes, even the hair was the same as the Africans who were brought. And these Africans were the Igbo. And again, Beta Israel, the Ethiopian Jews. And so what I'm saying is, there was an attempt to whiten them all out, make them all white, by simply marrying them, even forcibly marrying them, and producing lighter and lighter offspring with each generation, and perpetuating a culture that exists even today in all of those countries, of seeking out lighter spouses so that your children will be white. That's what they do. And they will never miss an opportunity to simply marry a white woman or a white man if they can. That's their goal. But here's the thing about whiteness. What no one is understanding, and perhaps it takes an indigenous perspective to see it this way, is that Latino is not a color. Hispanic is not a color. It's an ethnic group. It's not even a race. It's an ethnic group. And any race people of any race can be Hispanic. Latino is an ethnic group, and an ethnic group is primarily defined by its culture. You understand? So the people of these Latinx cultures are people who are simply, they're white. They're white. It says, I don't know what else we need to say about that. They're white. These are white people we're talking about. Many of them are white. If you go to Venezuela, there are no brown people. There aren't hardly any brown people left in Venezuela. And when you see that, you should be asking yourself, how did slavery even happen here if everyone looks white? Who was inferior and when? Exactly. That's the point. To erase any trace of the inferior groups. They were so successful in bringing people from European countries in that they no longer have a brown problem very much. There's hardly no brown. No hay morenos en Venezuela. No hay morenos en Venezuela. So this leads to confusion. These are white people, and they come from countries like Venezuela. They come from their own home countries, and they come to the United States, and behind them, they have a history of being the master race. They are the conquistadors. Los conquistadores. They come to the United States. They come, el norte, los Estados Unidos, and here they find themselves stripped of that status before they realize it. For black people, we can walk by you guys on the street and not even know that you're Hispanic unless you open your mouth, and even that may not solve it. There's no way of knowing if you're Latino or not. If we don't see melanated complexion, we are not going to even know you're Hispanic. You can hide your culture within you. We can't hide, right? So this is the source of the confusion.
When we standing on business, I'm a big stepper. Underground methods, top-notch.
Hi, my name is Leandro. You guys might know me by this video, and I just want to say something to the Latino population who keeps coming to TikTok and saying, calling out Americans and specifically Black Americans, and being like, "Why aren't you guys standing up for us? We did it in Black Lives Movement." As an Afro-Latino myself, we have to hold accountability for our actions. 60% of our people voted for that guy, voted for these deportations. Many of your family members voted for this guy.
60% of Latinos voted for Trump in this election. And to think that my vote was going towards protecting my people. The fact that I was absolutely horrified at the thought of Trump becoming president because of the effects that it will have on our people. I voted for those Latinos that don't have a voice in this country. For the Latinos that are the backbone of this country and don't receive shit. I voted for the Latinos that have been nothing but good people in this country, paying taxes and have no criminal records. Only to find out that it's our own people turning against us. I am truly disgusted.
And let's be very serious. Latinos voted for Trump because they want to be as close to whiteness as possible. It's because they're anti-black.
This is what I'm talking about. You see what I'm saying? Multi-generationally mixed people are confused because of miscegenation. MGM, multi-generationally mixed people. That is what Hispanics are. That is what Mexicans are. It means you're not just mixed because you're biracial, because your mom was white and your dad was black. No, it means that over the course of many generations, many mixtures, you have a complex mixture ratio because your mixture occurred over the course of many generations and went back and forth in both directions with each generation. And in fact, in the case of Latinos in particular, it wasn't just it wasn't just any two ethnic groups that we're talking about. We're talking about the white race, yes, but remember there are ethnic groups within the white race. You have the Iberian ethnic groups, the Spaniards and the Portuguese. They really constitute one ethnic group. But then you've got the English and the Welsh and the Irish and the Scottish. That's a separate ethnic group, right? And then you've got the French and the Italians. I mean, from whom come the rest of your Romance languages, right? I mean, that's another ethnic group. You've got Germans and Austrians and Poles and, now we're getting into another ethnic group. You see where I'm going with this? There are many white ethnic groups. There are many black ethnic groups. And among the Hispanic ethnic groups do not include Spaniards and Portuguese, right? No. Because to be Hispanic, you must be mixed. multi-generational mixing is what makes a Hispanic. So what we're talking about is people who are mixed with either Portuguese or Spanish or both, and that thing is mixed with the indigenous American, and then those two are further mixed with the slaves brought from Africa. So there is at least a tripartite mixture here that makes a Latino Latino. But in recent generations, Europeans have seen to it that Hispanics would be overtaken with whiteness. They have been whited out. They have been whited out, which was done deliberately and very consciously. It was specifically said that that was the purpose for luring immigrants from Europe to those countries in the first place, to make that happen. And mission accomplished. They've done it. So now you've got a lot of white people in those countries. Now, of course, they're not all Venezuela. Brazil still has a long way to go. And then you've got, places like Honduras, where there is still a strong presence of las garifunas or otras morenos en el país. But while there are countries like that with that strong brown presence, there is still that master class of whites in the same country every time who dominate, and they are the ones who decide what the standard culture is for that within that nationality. And so to identify as the center of a nationality culturally is to inherently, congenitally other anyone else's culture and thereby make them feel like they are less than, or at the very least separate from you, when they're not separate. It's just that the reason those people are those Hondurans are brown and these Hondurans are white is because the ratios of their mixture are different. That's it. Just different ratios of mixture. You're all the same crap. You're all the same crap. There's just different ratios of crap to crap in your blood, in your DNA. That's all there is to it. That's all there is to it. And I believe you me, I have the utmost appreciation for your respective cultures. I promise you. Because I am a student of all of your cultures. But we have to put these things in context. This is why these people are confused. They voted for Trump believing, and this is what we keep talking about, 60% of Latinos. You keep hearing everyone talk about this. 60%. You hear that figure tossed around a lot. 60% of Latinos voted for Trump, right? They voted for Trump. Yeah. Because they believed that it was okay to close the door behind them when they got into the country themselves, and they're thinking, I came legally, I won't be touched, it's okay to shut out the rest of you. Now here's the indigenous perspective that I don't think you were expecting. All of you, including the ones who came legally, need to get off this land and get out of this country. You all should be gone. You shouldn't be here. Why are you even here? What are you coming here for? We got problems in this country too. You got problems in your country. Go back to your country. Go back to your country. Because frankly, the only reason you're here and the only reason liberals are defending all of these white Hispanics who are coming here with the intent of becoming the master race here is because they're doing this because Euro-American liberals have have reached a point where their white guilt, as we call it, has met its zenith. And there's nothing more cathartic than taking in migrants from other countries, refugees in some cases, and saying, hey, if you're coming from a crisis, or if you're just looking for freedom, not even necessarily coming from a crisis of any kind in particular, we will take you in because we're on stolen land anyway. And we just feel that since we are acknowledging that we stole this land in the first place, we're going to pay it forward by allowing anyone to come here. That is not how you fix the problem. The only way to truly fix the problem is for you to leave. This is why I first introduced myself to you. I wanted you to know who was talking to you. Let's say your ancestry is entirely Scottish, English, French, and Italian. Let's say that that's your ancestry. You are living in the United States of America. Let's say you live in Omaha. Okay. And you have a good job as an underwriter for Mutual of Omaha. Your life is fine. So you're not going to do anything that you're not going to be on the side of any position that just says you need to give all this up, because your life is going swell. What you would like to do to fix the problem once your conscience is finally pricked about the fact that you come from a people who committed abhorrent atrocities. You now want to try and fix it in a way that inconveniences you the least. So if it's just the small inconvenience of having to compete for jobs with these migrants from south of the border, just let them come in, because it makes me feel better about me. It makes me feel better about me as a person. It distinguishes me from my evil ancestors. That is not the way to think about it. I'm sorry. Anything that is stolen must be given back. You stole land, you must give it back. That's Torah. You took it. You came and you took it. It's not yours. Give it back. Period. The only way to give it back is to get off of it. You must remove yourself from the land so that I can have it, so that Native Americans can have it. Everyone should leave. Everyone should leave. Anyone who is a descendant of the transatlantic slave trade, well, don't you think an exception should be made for them, since they are not the ones who put them where they are? I mean, if you genuinely brought someone in my ancestors, I have ancestors who were brought on a boat. On the other hand, I have ancestors who never came here, but were always here. So I'm not going nowhere. I'm not going nowhere. When you leave, this is mine. Indigenous people should be divvying this up. You shouldn't even be here. You should be going back to Europe, but you just don't want to. You should not be trying to solve your guilt problem by bringing in more people who also shouldn't be here. Just more white people, more Euro-Americans. You want to increase the Euro-American number in our population. It's just another way to not get outnumbered. Because of course, you can say, oh well, but they're not accepted as white anyway. Yes, but you'll fix that eventually. Eventually you'll get over it and you'll accept them. Why? Because they look like you. There will come a time when you can't tell anyway. I feel like we're already there. You can't tell someone's Hispanic or not half the time. How would you know? How would you know? So that's where we really are. You're just bringing them here. You're bringing them here to feel, so that you can feel better. And they are confused when they get here because only half of the Euro-Americans agree to let them in. And the other half says, no, we remember who you are. We're not confused. You're Latino. You're Hispanic, which means you have Negro blood. And for even one drop of Negro blood, we already had a rule that specifically said you were not human. One drop rule. If you are at all Negro, you are fully Negro. That was, by the way, the counterpart to blood quantum. How much Indian blood can make you Indian? But of course, you started to say that we could only be Indian and be white if we were white with no more than 1/16 Indian blood. And that gets to qualify as what we now refer to as a Native American. Research blood quantum. It's fascinating. It's fascinating. For those of you who don't know. This is my point. The reason those two are in inverse is because that's how many black people who were originally counted on the earliest censuses as free persons of color ended up being reclassified over time as just black. And it wasn't until the 1980s, that we began identifying by the term African American. It wasn't until the Harlem Renaissance, go watch my Harlem Renaissance video, that we even started identifying as African anything. Black people before the Harlem Renaissance did not identify as Africans and did not identify with Africa. Did you know that? You remember the Back to Africa movement? We were all against it. Nobody was trying to go back to Africa, and none of us were even trying to explore what Africa was about. We weren't even there were no roots we were trying to reclaim. You need to research this. You need to research this. So what I'm saying is, of course, many of us are indigenous, but not counted as indigenous. You don't have to believe that, but whoever's not indigenous, I will say this, does need to leave. If you're not from here, you need to be gone. You shouldn't be here. You shouldn't be here. Don't invite more people and then try to defend them so that you feel good about the problem that you created with your racism, your white supremacy. You have designated among yourselves a subaltern. That is a Marxist term. You have designated a subaltern, a class that forms that bottom sprawling proletariat for you to pounce upon and say, either I accept you and you should be grateful that I accept you, or I reject you. Get the hell out. Yeah, Donald Trump is breaking up families. He's breaking up families. What they need to do is pick up as a family and all go back to their respective nations because they are not from here. At this point, your blood is almost entirely European. Barely any part of it is indigenous. Barely any part of it is African. You should be in Europe. And all the Europeans need to go back to Europe. And by the way, European countries would benefit from this in the long run. Because, in case you haven't heard or in case you haven't noticed, your populations are dwindling around the world. Projections currently estimate that white nations primarily are all going to have significantly smaller populations by 2050, by 2075. The outlook is bleak, dismal for many of these countries. Because you're not reproducing fast enough, you're not, you're just not thriving on the planet. You're just not thriving on the planet. You need to band together. So go back to Europe. All of the white people who are here need to go back to Europe and return this land. Return this land. What are you talking about? This is why white Hispanics, white Latinos are confused. They're saying, I look like you. How can you treat me as different? I thought you were going to ice out, no pun intended, the morenos coming behind me. Not me. Why are you touching people who are documented? I came legally. That paper don't matter. It don't matter if you came legally or not. That doesn't matter. And it has never mattered to these people. And the only way you were able to delude yourself into believing that they cared one way or another, despite all the things that they've said and done over the years to demonstrate otherwise, the only way you were able to fool yourself into believing that they might have your back is because of wishful thinking. It's because of how much you wanted to identify with Trump and his people. MAGA supporters seemed like the whitest white people that you could possibly join. These are the whitest white. There's nothing whiter than being what is apparently the core, the essence of American society. Hispanics are the largest minority in this country. Why? Because a bunch of the people being counted as white are also Hispanic, because you can and often are both. Being white does not make you less Hispanic. You can be any color and be Hispanic. That's the point. So for those who are caught in the middle of this misogynist conspiracy that has been going on for 400 years now, 300 years now, you're stuck and you don't know who to identify with. And we're going to come back to, let me say this, the Native American is in the same boat in some cases. Native Americans are largely, predominantly white today, and have been actually for a pretty long time, to be honest. This is not what they looked like when the colonizer got here. The colonizer did not see white people when they got here. Look at Native Americans today. Have you seen them? For those of you who aren't Native American, go look. They know that they didn't look like that, and you know that they didn't look like that. What do you think they looked like? They may not have all had this hair, but they looked like me. They were called the copper-colored race for a reason. This is copper's color. This is the color of a penny. Especially the pennies that were circulating back then. The copper that colonizers had when they came here looked like this. And this is what they were talking about. These are copper. These people are not copper colored. That's because of blood quantum. The people who qualify as Native Americans today have largely almost entirely, mostly European DNA. Because white people mixed with them so heavily and then began to only acknowledge their own offspring as the Indian. And that's what they call the Native American. They're American because the white man called himself an American first, then called the Indian an American. But to distinguish between the two, he said, well, this is a Native American. I am a this is a Native American, meaning an American who is from America. The brown ones don't count. Andrew Jackson made that distinction. I've talked about this on this channel. And this is why Torah forbade the children of Yatzarel from mixing with their Canaanite neighbors or anyone else, Egyptians, Persians, it didn't matter. We weren't supposed to mix with anyone, not because there was some sort of racial inferiority among those people, and not because the Yatzarelim, the Israelites, were racially superior in any way. No, we weren't racially superior. But if Yahweh chose a specific ethnic group to do a job, they must remain themselves. If they mix with other people, they immediately start infringing upon that ethnic identity, because now it's getting washed out and blended with something else. So the people who were chosen cannot be marked by the anointing of Yahweh if they are changing by mixing with other people. You're not still an Israelite. You're something else. You see what I'm saying? To be an Israelite, well, I'll go into that in a video, in a future presentation. But this is the reason. Yahweh was trying to avoid miscegenation, the miscegenation of Yatzarel. We are her children. And miscegenation is what we were being protected against when we were told not to mix with the tribes of other nations and other confederacies and other kingdoms. We were not supposed to mix with them. Because miscegenation hurts you twofold. It takes your cultural identity in addition to removing in addition to removing the actual blood. It's replacing the blood with the blood of another people, so you're biologically not part of the group that Yahweh chose. That when the covenant was made and the blood was sprinkled with hyssop upon a group of people, that group of people was all of one blood. And blood was the foundation of the covenant, which is why the blood could not be mixed. But now also, since you mix, your culture changes and you adopt another god entirely too. That's how we end up in this situation. And I know for any white people and Native Americans who are here right now, and Jewish people, you don't believe any of this hooey about us being Israelites. That's fine. That's fine. But you understand that the logic of what I'm saying would apply anyway. Miscegenation is a form of genocide. So no matter who I am, genocide is happening to me whenever this is going on. It's just another way to remove me. Instead of having truth and reconciliation like South Africa has, you can eventually avoid ever having to truly do right by me if you can just continually mix with me to the point where we all become one light brown group of people. Once that happens, you no longer owe me anything because you are me. And you can just claim to be the victim now, as well as get the rights and benefits of being the oppressor. You avoided having to ever be held accountable for your actions by simply erasing me.
So we have a discourse going on between, I think majority like Mexicans and the Black community. And I just have to say to my Mexican people who are asking why the Black people are not like protesting with us or whatever. Why would they? 92% of their women voted for Kamala. 80% of their community of men voted for Kamala. 60% of Latinos voted for Kamala. And I believe the majority were women and the majority were Mexican. But that number is crazy, considering that Hispanics and Latinos are becoming the fastest growing minority. Like, we are going to be the majority soon. And it's crazy for me to think that number was so fucking low. And now you're asking where the Black community is when they're the ones who try to avoid this. Hello? They try to avoid this. We all tried to tell you guys. Even within my own community, I'm talking to you guys because I did the work. And I know other Latinas who did the work. We were on calls every fucking week. We were writing postcards. We were making phone calls. And you guys were probably nowhere in sight, my Latino community. And now you're begging the Black community to come help us, to come save us. No! I think it's time we learn to save ourselves. And let the Black community rest. Because my God, have they not done enough fucking work. So, yeah. Where were we during the George Floyd protests? Or the Breonna Taylor, Sandra Bland? When their community was getting killed, where the fuck were we? Because I do not remember seeing any Latin people out there. Now, maybe there was one or two of y'all. I don't remember seeing any Mexicans out there. So why should they put their time, their energy, all of this into helping a group of people who didn't give a shit about them when they needed it?
So you've probably so a lot of you have probably seen this lady, this Latina woman who was talking, who in the clip that I just showed, because everyone has reacted to her. Everyone has had a reaction to. Everyone has had a reaction to what she had to say. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it because it's been her words have been so picked apart on the internet already. But I just wanted to say that I appreciate that she acknowledges the fact that the rights that Latinos are coming to claim here in the United States are rights that actually are only afforded them because of the civil rights movements, wave 1 and 2, that my people forged in this country. Suffrage alone comes to the Latino only because it comes to us. Because remember, one drop of Negro blood made you a Negro, and every Latino, therefore, would be a Negro. And you coming into this country, until I fought and bled to get the right to vote for myself, you would not have had it either. So it is my ancestors who did the work to make sure that you could even vote for Trump. I'm not a fan of Kamala Harris. I'm gonna just be real with you. I'm not a fan. I was never a fan. I was not a fan when she first tried to make her voice heard. And it was so hypocritical because of how many of her own people she has stepped on to get where she is. I've never been okay with Kamala Harris. But to be fair, I've never been okay with Joe Biden either. Well, let me not say never. I didn't want Joe Biden to become president. Of course, the alternative was Trump. So, 6 of 1. He became president. Fine. Whatever. Kamala ran against him. She was not a better choice to me. For reasons I have enumerated in previous videos, or at least one previous video. I've talked about, when the debates were going on, I did a video at that time. So if you've seen that, you understand a little bit about where I'm coming from. But listen, Joe Biden screwed us. And I don't care what you liberals have to say about it. He was a terrible president. He absolutely did indeed manipulate, use, and abuse the Negro to get into the Oval Office in the first place. He absolutely deserved to have us strip him of our support. We honestly should be gutting the Democratic Party for how it uses us, weaponizes us against Republicans, and gives us nothing in return. Justice served to us benefits everybody. When will you learn that lesson? You still have not learned that lesson. A rising tide lifts all boats. You must lift from the bottom. Stop trying to solve one spot problem at a time. Stop spot cleaning the room. Mop the floor. Start with us. Start with us. The next Democratic president who gets in office had better start with us. We're first. You know why? Because when you serve us first, everyone else will benefit automatically. I've talked about that on this channel before. You need to start with us. Joe Biden made campaign promises to us, documented. Before he became president, he was saying that he would establish a committee to suss out the logistics and the feasibility of making reparations for slavery. He never did it. He strung us along for 4 years. We had our own panel discussions about it, and our own black legislators made as much headway as they could to set him up for establishing the committee. Because they actually did the groundwork for seeking out such a committee. And he deliberately did not take that, not one more step further. He didn't provide or contribute to an iota of progress. That is the ultimate middle finger, to take our vote, knowing that we voted for you on the basis that we believed you would do something. What happened was he got in office and he said, they'll vote for me again and I'll make it in. I'll do it. I'll do it later. Just get me in office again and I'll do it. How dare you? How dare you? How dare you, Joe, when you personally had sins to atone for. You and the Clintons both, frankly, and yet we prop y'all up. Sick of that. Sick of that. But Trump won. So forget Joe Biden, forget Kamala Harris. Trump won. Largely because Latinos were riding for Trump. And to be fair, there were some some black men who did vote for Trump. Not so much black women, but there were some black men who did vote for Trump. Very small numbers, but in larger numbers than you might have expected. And it might have been just that margin between blacks and Hispanics that made the difference, to be honest with you. However, still, even with black men, the vote was overwhelmingly for Kamala Harris. Hispanics have only themselves to blame here. We fought so that you could eat. We fought, bled, and died. First of all, if you're gonna work so hard to come to this country that you even mythologize how awesome this country is in your head before you get here, making movies like El Norte and apotheosizing the land that we've built this country on, and believing that you will live a dream when you get here. If you're gonna go that far, the least you could do is research the history of this country, because when you get here, you owe it to the people you now live with to know the history of this land. You knew the history of Mexico, you should know the history of the United States just as well, because this is becoming your country now. You owe it to us to know your history. And if you knew it, you would understand what those amendments, 12th, 13th, and 14th, came from. We did that. Latino suffrage comes from Negro suffering. You are only allowed to vote in this country because we fought for the right to vote. We fought for Negroes to be allowed to vote. We fought for Negroes to be allowed to vote. And you, at that time, would have been classified as a Negro.
Okay, so there's a lot of discourse right now around Latino content creators, Latino influencers that are choosing to stay silent during this time as our community is being targeted, as our community is being attacked. And I have to be honest and say that I am not surprised. And I'm not surprised for multiple reasons, which I want to go ahead and share with you. Leading up to November and what happened, I saw a lot of Latinos pop up and support him. A lot of Latinos say things like, well, my family came here legally, so everyone else should. I saw a lot of Latinos say things like, well, they're only targeting the criminals. When now you're hearing about reports of multiple people being rounded up or at least questioned that are not even criminals. You can look that up for yourself. I also heard of a lot of Latinos, frankly, just outright saying things like it doesn't matter. That it doesn't matter to them because it's not impacting them. And that, y'all, is rooted in privilege. The ability to not care, or the choice, frankly, to not care about another group, especially of a marginalized group that is hurting, the ability to not care because it doesn't impact you, the ability to not care how the results went because it doesn't impact you, or you think it doesn't impact you, because we'll get there. There's privilege there. But what I also want to go ahead and mention, why I'm also not surprised that things went in this direction and now we find ourselves here. And now Latinos are like, oh my gosh, what? I didn't think that this would happen. Girl, bye. Like, we knew, and we tried to warn you, but here we are. Latinos, we have an anti-Blackness issue in our community. I grew up with it. I grew up with family members who were not friendly towards Black people or said things around darkness or Blackness. There's machismo in our community that is still very rampant. This need to dominate over women. So machismo, racism, the disinformation and misinformation that is an issue in our community. So all of that together, I knew, and I said this months ago, that it would lead to, or it could lead to, people not voting for her. And here we freaking are, okay? So I'm not surprised. And also internalized racism, the proximity or the need to feel like you want to be white, even though you will never be white. Never. It won't be a thing. All that comes together and you have what we're going through now. So I'm not surprised. But if you do want to have conversations about this type of stuff, follow for more, because I'm down to talk.
Here's the thing about this TikToker. He's a Latino, obviously, and he's talking about this same situation that everybody else is talking about, and he's got a good head on his shoulders about it. But there is one thing I do want to nitpick about what he had to say, which is that he claims that that Hispanics. He's telling his own people, he's a Latino telling other Latinos, you will not be accepted as white. You will never be accepted as white. I do have to contend with that part. Because again, the confusion of your people is warranted. They had a right to believe they would be treated as whites because they are white. Many of them, not all, but many of them, the ones who have the problem right now, are white. A lot of the brown Latinos don't even come to this country. But when they do, they already know. They're the first ones getting the boot. The ones who are surprised by the outcome of all this, the ones who are surprised by how savage immigration and customs is being, the ones who feel betrayed by the MAGA movement and by Senor Trump, they feel betrayed because they are white. They are white. Yes, I was talking about the one drop rule. One drop of Negro blood made you Negro in the eyes of Euro Americans. But frankly, you are Euro Americans and you should be able to simply masquerade as any other white person. Do you understand that at any given time, you can simply stop checking the Hispanic box? It's your choice. That's the thing. You could just say you're not Hispanic, and that would fix all your problems because you're white. Now, that's not the case for all of you, of course. Some of you can't actually get away with it. Some of you can't pass. But most of you can pass. All these Hispanics are coming into the country and they're padding the white population numbers. You know who's really getting outnumbered? This is why you've got neo-Nazis out here talking about we're losing our country to brown people. Some of you are only ideologically brown. Some of you are only conceptually brown. What they're talking about is the fact that there aren't any quote-unquote true whites. There aren't enough true whites left because of how many whites are secretly Hispanic. And not secretly because you're genuinely hiding it or concealing it or in social circumstances, but because when you spot a white person on the street, you can't be sure that that's not a Hispanic you're looking at. You can't be sure. We got a lot of Hispanics coming in here and dyeing their hair blonde. Y'all love dyeing your hair blonde. You do it as often as any other white person does. Some of y'all are white people with blue eyes. I mean, you can't get whiter than blue eyes. You are as white as any pale European there has ever been. Hispanic may as well be Scandinavian if it's going to include blue eyes and blonde hair now. This is what you're doing. The distinctions between you are completely arbitrary. And it is only the pride you have in your culture, which is understandable because your culture is awesome. You come from several awesome cultures. But because you have so much pride in your cultures, you want to identify as white, but not so much that you completely throw away Latino identity. It would make you feel bad. It would make you feel guilty. What's crazy to me is that you even have to go that far before you start feeling guilt. This is what it took. This vote, this election, this mistake is what it took for you to start feeling guilt. This TikToker is saying, you will never be white. Sure you will. You are. Many of you are white. What we have to understand is it's not that you're not white. It's that there are white Hispanics and black Hispanics, right? Just like there are white Americans and brown Americans, black Americans. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. You're from a separate country. That's all there is to it. You're just from a separate country. There are black people down there too. There are black people and white people in every Latin American country. Y'all come from the same situation. I don't know what you're confused about. You're confused because mixture confuses people. That's what it does. Biracial people are confused. They don't know what side to identify with. And it makes it hard for them to fit in school as kids. They don't know what to do with themselves. Some of them get on social media and talk about this all the time, talking about how, hey, I feel like my mom or my dad was a white person who fetishized black people, got with them, and then created me, and I'm sitting here and don't even have both parents because you guys split up eventually, and I'm just the product of a fetish, and now I'm having to deal with so many weird social situations that I don't understand. The only thing that makes it better is that with each generation there are more and more mixed people. And what you have to understand is that worldwide, the biggest race is not a race. The biggest race around the world, globally, the biggest race is the multi-generationally mixed race. The largest race is just the race you make by combining all of the mixed races, all the mixed race people groups. Latino is just a mixed race people group. Arab is just a mixed race people group. You see what I'm saying? When you start combining all of these people, these are mixed race people groups. Because none of them used to look the way they currently look. They all used to look different. That's what the documentary is going to be about, by the way. But but this is the problem. This is the problem. This TikToker is saying you'll never be white. You are white. You're just struggling to claim the benefits of your whiteness because you aren't willing to commit to selling all the way out. If you sell out unabashedly with no shame, you can be white. It's a choice. You haven't committed fully to selling all the way out. To truly sell out, you would have to completely erase your history and your ancestry. There's nothing to remind anyone else of your history and your ancestry. So if you erase it, there will be no one to tell you who you are. They won't be able to say you're not white. You just have to quit admitting you're not fully white. You have to stop admitting you're Hispanic. You want to still be fully white and be Hispanic. And listen, they should be okay with that because you are white. You are. You've got it. You've earned it. You're it. You're white. In your country where you come from, you're white. That's why you're confused about all of this. The issue is these Europeans, these Euro-Americans are not fooled because once you admit that you're Hispanic, they're like, oh, wait a minute. Because you might not have, a lot of y'all don't even have a tan. This tan that Hispanics are known for, it's gone. What are you talking about? What tan? You're not brown people. Some of you are, but I'm not talking to those. Because again, the ones who are shocked by what happened, the ones who got by the MAGA movement, were the ones who genuinely believed that they were untouchable because they were white. You sought out a country where you hoped you could be included in white supremacy. You were looking for white supremacy. You wanted to join white supremacists. And when they betrayed you, because they were telling you, no, you're not really one of us. You needed to look to, don't look at me. Go talk to the Jews. The Jews know all about this. Jewish people have been having their white card revoked for years. They are very selectively white because these same people who you voted for, they don't accept Jewish people either. And Jewish people are whiter than you. They came here directly from Europe. And which European countries do they come from? Places like Russia, Germany, Austria, Poland, Czechoslovakia. They come from Baltic states. And if they don't get, if even their white card gets pulled from time to time by these other Europeans, when they are as European as anyone else could possibly be, they mixed all the way out. Ancient Israelites were not white, and it's not just black Hebrew Israelites who say so. Jewish scholars are well published on the fact that ancient Israelites were very dark. Jewish scholars, multiple, plural. Jewish scholars and rabbis are well published on this fact. The Ashkenazi Jew, and today even the Sephardic Jew, but that's a recent development. Sephardic Jews were black recently. And I will actually be doing a presentation about that in the near future. So we'll squash that. But that's my point. Hispanics, you should be looking to those people for an explanation. They can tell you what this is about. They will set you straight because they're not confused. Well, certainly not as confused as you. They have very little confusion about this. For the most part, they are not confused. You're confused because you're new to this whole multi-generationally mixed thing. Jews have several centuries on you in this. That's why they're not confused. So, I'm just telling you.
Okay. Over 3,500 views, over 150 comments, all pretty much saying the same thing. I learned that lesson. I hear you. It's given me the perspective I need because, the numbers don't lie. We have to take care of us before we can ask anyone else to come in and support us, and specifically the black community, which after all the comments and all the replies and everything, the numbers are there. The data is there.
So what this guy is basically saying is that Latinos need to get better at organizing and helping each other. They don't support each other as much as black people do. Now, here's the thing. That it depends on what level you're talking about. At the level he's talking about, this is true. At the broad social level, Latinos are not supporting each other as much as black people are supporting each other. But at the familial level, their family structures are far superior to ours. And they support each other at the familial level and at the household level much better than we do. So it's interesting to hear him say this because we commonly say the opposite. We say this in reverse. We say that about them, that we need to be more like Hispanics at the familial level. But yes, as a people, across the board. And part of your problem is because you're coming from all different countries and you feel like you're all just a little bit different and you want to divide yourselves into little cliques, you know, and also because you're confused about whether you're white or not. You're confused. Torah dictated, and listen, when I keep quoting Torah because you need to understand this. If you're Hispanic, there is a trace amount of Israelite blood in your DNA. How much? It depends, because frankly, the majority of the Latinos I'm talking to right now are white Latinos living in the United States, and frankly, if you're white Latinos living in the United States, you probably have not very much Israelite blood in you at all. But some of the indigenous blood that you have might be Hebrew, might be Israelite. The African blood that you have in you almost definitely is Israelite. Almost definitely. And so this Black Hebrew Israelite movement that you know many of you may think is ridiculous, you need to do your research before you decide whether it's ridiculous or not. And then beyond that, you also need to determine whether or not you want to explore it, because frankly, you may have a greater proximity to it than you think. And there are some darker Hispanics who genuinely do have an affinity for the Black Hebrew Israelite movement because they know that they do have this blood. They do have this blood. In, you know, like to a significant degree. Now again, I'm going to do a whole presentation about who really qualifies by blood and who doesn't, and that's a very touchy subject that I'm just not willing to get into right now. But at the very least, you should at least be understanding that some of that may apply to you to some extent. And we need to talk about it, and that's why you should care when I bring to you Torah, because Torah is not just for religion. In fact, religion is useless. Get out of the Catholic Church and stop dealing with Christianity. The religion is crap, all right? But Torah is a way to organize your life, and it is a way for people to organize their entire society. It is a roadmap for how to have a successful society, a successful coexistence of man and nature. That's what it actually is. Now, here's the thing. Peep this. Listen to me. He's talking about how you guys have got to organize better like Black people. And at the end of the day, yeah, that's the crux of the matter. For you, that's the life lesson here. Right now, what you need to be thinking about is how you're going to organize better. You've got to do better, right? You've got to actually pull your own weight around here and start contributing to the fight for civil rights. And you need to do it under the auspices of the understanding, the same understanding that Euro-Americans need to have, under the auspices of the understanding that none of you should actually be here in the first place, including the Euro-American. With her English and French ancestry, you shouldn't even be here. The Italians should not be here. Irish, Scottish, Welsh, German, Polish, Austrian, Australian. None of those should be. None of those groups should be here. No one from Bosnia and Herzegovina, how do you say it? Herzegovina should be here. No one from Macedonia should be here. Herzegovina? I can't even remember off the top of my head. It's killing me that I don't know. Yeah, but nobody's from Azerbaijan should be here. If you're Turkish, you shouldn't be here. You know what I'm saying? Russians shouldn't be here. Ukrainians shouldn't be here. Period. Period. You have no place here. No Dutchman. No, you know what I'm saying? Like none of you. No Scandinavian anything. All right. No Swedish, Norwegian. You shouldn't be here. No one from New Zealand should be here either. Because you don't belong. It's not your land. So if we really wanted to fix the... If you really want to atone for your transgressions, the real atonement is always reparation. Repair what you broke. And in your case, that would mean leaving. Get out. Go. Seriously. You should not be here. But, again, under the auspices of that understanding, you should be grateful to be here, to be included in whatever the heck is going on here. So, if you stay here, and you're staying because the guy who stole the land said you could stay, okay. Well, given that, both of you should recognize that even this is still not fair. Even this arrangement is still not fair. Right? So what you should be doing is supporting black people. That is always the answer. Support black Americans. Above all else. Everybody else will be fine if you support us. I know it sounds far-fetched to you, but have you ever tried it? We keep telling you. Pick everyone up from the bottom. We're on the bottom. Start with us. What you don't know is that the restoration of the empire of Yatzarel, the kingdom of Israel, is what will bring about world peace. World peace will come as a natural result of you finally just acknowledging who we are and restoring us to what we are supposed to be and where we are supposed to be. And then following our example. It's just like in Indiana Jones. You go into some tomb and remove some ancient relic, and then there's this trap that causes some kind of thing to happen. All the chaos would stop if you just put the thing back. The reason you're having to jump and hurdle and sprint and go through all these conniptions just to find a way to get out alive is because you're trying to figure out how you can get out alive without putting back the relic of the ancient people of the land where the tomb is that you just invaded. Lara Croft 2. You're raiding a tomb. Why don't you leave the thing where it is? Leave it be. Then you wouldn't have any trouble getting out of here. You're not supposed to be here anyway. The spirits in this cave want you gone. If you're just leaving, that's not a problem. But if you're stealing while leaving, that's the problem. That's why they're trying to kill you. You see what I'm saying? You're trying to find a way for everything to be okay without you fixing any of what you break. It's not going to work. You have to restore us. Now that we know who we are, you have to restore us. Hispanics, in the meantime, need to, yes, pull their own weight. You need to start organizing and supporting Black people. You need to start supporting the Negro. That is how you will better yourself. I really believe we need to pull out of the Democratic Party, and whatever 3 or 4 of us are brainwashed enough to be stuck in the Republican Party, you need to withdraw as well. We need to come together even more, and we need to form a Black party again. We've done it before. We need to do it again, and we need to do it with gusto, and we need to do it with the intent to run the gamut in as many states as possible and steal votes from both sides. And you're going to say, you're just going to weaken the Democratic Party mostly. Yes. Yes, we will. And Democrats have only themselves to blame. You have not done what you need to do for us. You haven't paid back anything that you owe. And rarely do you even entertain the notion that you should. We still have to argue with even the liberals about whether or not reparations is worth your time, worth the money. And there's always this age-old excuse that we can't afford it anyway, so it's an unreasonable request. Oh, please. There are a million different ways to make reparations. You just don't want to. You just want to find the infeasible way and say that because it's infeasible, there's nothing you can do, and you're just going to throw up your hands. Screw you. No, we owe Democrats nothing. The degree to which we owe Hispanics nothing is laughable. We don't even owe Democrats anything. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? What? Because you're going to be like, well, we did right by you on this thing over here and on that thing over there. I mean, you know, we're the ones who supported. No, stop. You don't get kudos for doing the right thing. Barack Obama wasn't even actually one of us. Did you know that? I mean, it's great that you overcame your prejudice against that color. But Barack Obama is a Kenyan British American. That is not what any of us are. That's not what we are. Slaves weren't taken from Kenya. The Negro is an Israelite. We came from the Israelite groups of Africa. If he had come from one of those, then I might count it. We also came from the indigenous people of this land. If he came from any American Indian tribes, then I would count it. We're predominantly American Indians. With, of course, the admixture of Igbo and Yoruba and, you know, the Beta Israel, the Ethiopian Jew. That's all I can tell you. Hispanics, yeah, you need to get it together. You need to get it together. You're mixed with the same things that we're mixed with. Different indigenous tribes. Not the same indigenous tribes, obviously. But we got some Israelite indigenous tribes that were down in South America as well. Like if you come from Peru, yeah, you're us. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But even if not, you understand that your situation is the same as ours. You need to go back where you came from. That land is yours now. And that's it. I mean, for those of you who are really white, you need to go back where you truly come from. You're primarily European. That's why you look the way you look. So you need to go back to Europe. Because basically you're a bunch of Spaniards and Portuguese, German, English, whatever. Like that, you're Italians and all this other stuff. You're from Europe. And you need to figure out which country you in Europe that you should really be going to. That's what you should be researching. You need to go back to Europe. But since you're not going to do that, and since you're not even going to get out of here, and since the Euro-American refuses to get out of here, what you all need to do is put the Negro on a pedestal. You owe us putting us on a pedestal. You really do. And if you do it, you will be fixing problems you didn't even think of. I assure you.
All right, Latinos, mi gente, we need to do better. I need you to watch this video all the way through because it's important for everyone, no matter what background, no matter what you believe. I need you to watch this. A few days ago, I made a video about unity. You can go look at it. It's called We Are Stronger When We Unite. And the overall message of that video was, if all of the minorities, particularly the black community, if we came together with Latinos, just how powerful could we be? What are the things that we could change? What is the impact that we could create? I was coming from hey, if we unite, we can do a lot. And the black community showed up and they had a lot to say, and it wasn't great. But I'm thankful because they clarified that in my message, I missed very important context that changes, or more so, speaks to the truth of where we're at. We are in a very important place in history. We are in a position where how we organize, the things that we do now, today, tomorrow, in this administration, is going to determine a lot. Go back, look through my video, watch the comments. But if you notice, the overwhelming numbers that you'll hear is 92%. 92% being the amount of people in the black community who overwhelmingly voted for Harris. Now, you compare that to the 46 to 52% of Latinos that voted for Trump. I was asking for them to come help us. And their response was, first of all, we've been doing this a lot longer than you. But second of all, you can't even help yourself. Why would we come and help you? And after reading through 150 plus comments and responding to most of them, it really dawned on me that they're right. They have been organizing and fighting and responsible primarily for the progress of this country for hundreds of years. And for us Latinos, we can't even get our house in order. We can't even agree on who we should vote for and who has our interest in mind. And not to mention now with these protests, I'm seeing people burning American flags. Why would you burn the flag of the country you're fighting so hard to stay in? Why? We are proud Mexicans. We are proud Latinos. I understand the flags because it represents who we are. But we should also be flying American flags because this is our home. This is my home. I've been here for 32 out of my 33 years in life. It is not us versus America. It is us fighting for what America is for us. And it is us learning to unite and support each other and organize. We have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of conversations that we need to have, and we need to unite and organize and do a better job of moving in the same direction, moving in the direction that is
going to be good for all of us. So a lot of the comments were, don't come and ask us for help. Take care of your own house. Figure out what y'all got to do. This message has to be for you. And it was hard. It was hard to read through the comments. It was hard to comment back. It was hard to hear it again and again and again. But I'm so grateful for the Black community that showed up and had this discussion, because they're right. And you know what? We do need their help, but we need to learn how to organize the way they did. Instead of asking them for help because we're the ones in trouble now, we need to learn how to organize ourselves. And more so, before we can ask anyone else to jump to our aid, we need to learn to jump to our own aid, and we need to learn to be there and support other people before we ask anyone else to come help us. So for all of the people who commented, we're sitting this one out as a Black community, y'all figure it out, I get it. And I think it's right. I think it's right, because we as Latinos, we have to do a better job of supporting each other. We have to do a better job of organizing. We have to do a better job of proving that we can unite and we can organize under a common cause. And not just because we need it, but because it's good for everyone. And when our Black brothers and sisters are there and they're going through it, we have to show up for them. Unity starts with us setting the example. It starts with us making the changes that we need to make in order to help ourselves. Because other people are going to be a lot more willing to help us if we're organized, if we're moving in the right direction, and if we're doing things for others because it's the right thing to do. So if you are a Latino and you are someone who wants to make a change, and if you're someone who wants to see America be better for us, we have to learn how to organize within ourselves. We have to learn how to better understand what it is we want and do it the right way. Stop burning American flags. Organize. Learn to support each other. Don't vote because the things that he's saying, the hateful things, the hateful rhetoric doesn't apply to you. Don't vote for just what's good for you. Vote for what's good for your own family, your own loved ones. Even if you don't have any family that's undocumented. We have to come together and we have to learn that until we are voting for an America that is good for everyone, it's not going to be the America that we want to live in. So yeah, I learned, and again, I've said it before, but I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I made that video. I'm grateful that I had so many people reach out, and you know, the love and support from that community that I felt once we had conversation, once people DM'd me and we had a chat, it was incredible. They've done so much for all of us that we don't even notice. We've benefited so much from the Black community and all of the effort that they've put in to make this country one where people like us are more accepted. It's our turn. It's our turn to lead the charge. And not just because we're the ones being attacked right now, but because we have the numbers, but because we have the power. And I think once we learn to organize, once we learn to row in the right direction, to take the charge in fighting for everyone's rights, then the Black community and every other community is going to be much more open to unifying with us. It may take time. We may not agree. We may not get a lot of this right, but I think we have to want it. And I think we have to step out of our own personal bubbles and step out of this, not my battle, not my fight, because it is. So to all of those in the Black community who saw my video, who commented and said, take care of your own house, talk to your own people. I appreciate it because I think that's what we need to do.
So glad that I made that video. I'm so glad because comments like this are important, right? I don't take any of these comments as confrontational or disrespectful. I think that it goes to show how the Black community feels about the Latino community, right? The fact that we aren't doing as much as we could to support other minorities that are also dealing with all of this, right? I know that we're all dealing with this to some degree in our own ways, but exactly what I highlighted in that video of we tend to focus on things that matter to us directly, and then once it's someone else's turn, we kind of turn off. That's what we need to change as Latinos. So if you are a Latino and you are watching this video, I think this is important because it's not going to be the first and last time we're put in this position, and it's not going to be the last time other minorities, like people in the Black community, are put in these situations. So, yeah, it should start with us. And yes, we should be much better at showing that support if in the future we want support. So I appreciate everyone who's commented on these videos and has shared that perspective because I think we need to know what we're doing or not doing, and we need to be better at it. So as much as we feel persecuted and chased and all of these things now, we have to understand that there's other people who feel this way too. And it's important for us to pay attention when it's happening to them too, because that's why people feel like they can come after us because they can go after all these other groups. So why not us? If we come together, if we help support one another, it's going to be better for all of us. But yes, it begins with us setting the standard of having to change. It's us understanding that we can do a better job of supporting other minorities so that those minorities feel more inclined to help us as well, because I totally understand that we can't ask for something that we're okay. Over 3,500 views, over 150 comments, all pretty much saying the same thing. I learned that lesson. I hear you. It's given me the perspective I need because, I mean, yeah, the numbers don't lie. We have to take care of us before we can ask anyone else to come in and support us, and specifically the Black community, which after all the comments and all the replies and everything, I mean, yeah, the numbers are there. The data is there. The history is there. I mean, y'all unified. You guys showed up for each other. We're the ones that didn't show up for ourselves or for you. So to everyone who commented, thank you. Like, I am taking all of this and I'm not pushing back because that's a perspective that I don't see because I'm in it, right? I'm surrounded by people who think like me, who see the problem like I do. But I don't think about all of the people who don't. All of the people who are within our own Latino group who voted against what is right for us and everyone. So it's hard to hear. It's hard to look at it that way, but it's 100% right. So I appreciate everyone who took the time to comment. I appreciate everyone who took the time to say it because I'm just looking for a solution. I'm just looking for an answer. I'm just looking for a world in which you're not scared to exist and be who you are, regardless of who you are. But I understand the problems you're discussing. I understand the issues that you're pointing out. So, I'm here to learn. I'm here to figure out what my role is in this and how I can help create a future that I want with the limited power that I have as an individual. But, again, I'm so glad I made that video because it gave me that perspective that I needed and just how the Black community sees what's going on within us. So I hope that, everyone who commented continues to engage with me and other Latinos, and we can have a discussion because I think that there's a lot that we can learn from you and how you mobilized. And, we need to do that. We need to catch up. So again, just incredibly thankful for all of the comments that just made it very clear, where I need to start and where some of us need to start with our messaging.
My only quibble with this guy, with what he's saying here is that he's still making it primarily about organizing. And yes, you do need to learn how to organize better, and which is only going to come from solving the bigger problem. But that bigger problem is still not being addressed by him, which is you have an identity crisis, and you need to solve that. You need to fix your identity crisis, which, by the way, in the process of you trying to fix your identity crisis, you'll be helping us fix our identity crisis. Because as you research your identity and try and get to the root of the problem with that, you're going to learn a lot about ours. Go on ahead and reveal what you learn. You know what I'm saying? You don't understand who you are, really. Because you don't want to face the fact that you assimilated, perhaps harder than anyone, with the colonizer. And that's why you look the way you look. That's why you act the way you act coming in here. It's why you voted for Trump. It's the real problem. It's the real problem. I ain't bullshit. Listen, I appreciate you guys listening. I just felt like all of this really needed to be said. It really needed to be said. Honestly. It is what it is. It is what it is. Maro, a.k.a. in the Creek Indian language, saying thank you to the Master of Breath, the Lord of the Sacred Wind, the one who imbues us with the sacred wind. And I hope that this has given somebody some perspective. All right, that's all we need is perspective. There is an awakening happening, and I am waiting to see signs of the awakening spreading among Latinos. I feel like the Latinos are the ones awakening the slowest. Even white people are waking up faster. The Euro-American whites are waking up faster than Latinos, and I don't understand that. That's perplexing to me. But yeah, it is time. This is the time of the awakening. And I have done videos about that where I explain how we can know when the time of the awakening is. If you don't know what the awakening is, you haven't been reading your Bible correctly. You don't know what the heck you're even waiting for, all right? You're waiting for Jesus to come, which is a waste of your time. That's nothing, all right? You need to be looking for the awakening. You need to be looking for the awakening. The awakening is here. It's happening now. It's the reason why black people are identifying as Israelites. And it's the reason why so many black people are coming forward about the fact that they know that they are indigenous. And many of us have actual paperwork to prove it. Some of us are even winning court cases, suing and winning court cases and earning land because of finding this out, because we can prove it in court. And so there's a lot going on here with this awakening, but it's not just about us. And black people, I need you to understand this too. Stop coming at this from a black supremacist perspective. Being the Israelites does not make you superior to anyone. It means that all the world's problems are actually your own fault. The reason why there even is such a thing as Latino, the reason why white people have committed all the heinous atrocities they've committed is actually because we didn't do our job first. We were supposed to teach everyone what a society is supposed to look like, and we were supposed to lead all societies around the world in righteousness. Righteousness is not what you think it is. Christianity lied to you. Righteousness is living in harmony with nature. Following Torah is what righteousness is. If you abide by Torah, you and nature will live in perfect harmony. I know that's not what it sounds like when you read the 10 Commandments, but it is. Nature in its broadest sense, meaning encompassing all things, living and non-living. But I'm just trying to get everyone to understand that we are supposed to be teaching white people. We were supposed to do it then, we didn't do it, and that precipitated all the problems that the world has endured since. And it's not just white people. Africans, Asians, it doesn't matter who it is. Everyone is supposed to learn how to live and how to build a society and moral rectitude from the Israelites. We're supposed to teach you, not just morally, but also ethically and legally. All right? We're supposed to teach you how to build a society. We did it, and then we threw it away. So we have got to learn that we're really the source of all our own problems, and we're the source of all of everyone's problems. The world is supposed to be at peace. It will not be at peace until we complete our return. We must lead the world to peace. We must lead the world to peace. Ask Rabbi Harry Rosenberg, who is white, and he is an Ashkenazi Jew, and he is a famous rabbi for his research on the lost tribes, and he will tell you who we are. These scholars, Jewish scholars, will tell you. But listen, Torah is not to be played with. It is a serious thing, and we've got to teach it, and we've got to get everyone to understand. We've got to get everyone on board. The awakening is not just for us. White people are awakening too. That's why there's an increasing number of white people today who will tell you who we are, the descendants of Yatzai. And if you're wondering why I pronounce it the way I pronounce it, it's because yet another prophecy is being fulfilled. She is returning to us a pure language.